Now, this track is based on automation. We'll be looking at Power Automate. We'll be looking at Power Virtual Agents, and we'll also be looking at Robotics Process Automation, which is called RPA. So some of you may have heard of RPA. Some of you may not have heard about it. So the purpose of this track is to take us through these three tools that are around automation and around chatbot creation. So today is the first class for this cohort 2, and I'm going to introduce us to Power Automate, what it is. I'm introduce you to myself, also one of the other mentors who's on the call, Carolina. We're actually 4 mentors who'll be taking this track. But for today's class, just myself and Carolina on the call. And then we want to know a bit about you, what your automation experience is, if at all, and then we'll get into it, right? So just confirming again that you can hear and see my screen. Are we good on both? Yeah.
Yes, all good.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. My name is Foyi Olajide Bello. I'm a Microsoft MVP in business applications. I'm also a senior consultant at Avanade. Away from my full-time job, I'm one of the community leaders for the Power Platform user group in Nigeria, and I do a lot of community work. I'm also the founder of Textilers, which is the community that is championing this cohort. For this cohort, I'll be one of the mentors for Power Automate, and basically here to support your learning journey as you go along. So my Twitter handle, the Twitter handle of Textilers, and my name on LinkedIn. All right, so let's get to know you just in 2 minutes. Just tell us your name, what experience you have in automation, and what you kind of expect from this class. Who wants to go first?
Okay, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Kito.
Okay, my name is Fumilaya Kunle Komalafe. I work with AXA Mansell. I have a beginner experience. I don't have technology background. I'm a salesperson, but I've started. I'm part of the community that Oniboke has created in my office, and we started something on Power Automate. But I know I have little, maybe just basic experience in Power Automate.
All right, that's great. So you're in the right place. Nice to meet you, Fumi. Sorry, I kept calling you Kiton because your handle is showing you up as Kiton.
No problem. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. All right, who's next? Damilola. Damilola has dropped off. Okay. I think we have somebody else. Lucia on the call. Do you want to unmute your mic?
That was good.
Okay, that's
Hello.
fine.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Lucia, and I'm here to learn about Power Apps for artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Okay. So you're not actually, this class for Power Automate. The Power Apps class for AI would start next week. We didn't have any class for it today, but we'll communicate on the Teams channel. But you can, Power Automate is part of the whole Power Platform family, so I'm sure it'll also be a plus to learn about it if you wish to stay on the call. Yes. All right, so I would hand over to Carolina to introduce herself, and then we can continue.
Thank you, Foyin. So yeah, I'm Carolina. So I'm also work at Avanade consultant in CRM team. I have also experience in Power Platform. So I have experience of over 10 years on Microsoft tools. So and my focus is development. So I'm really happy to be part of these and excited to share my knowledge with all of you. So
All right. Thank you so much, Carolina.
Thank you for you.
All right. So today we're going to look at the introduction to Power Automate, or when we talk about building flows, when we talk about controls, and we'll do a little demo on it so we can see what it's like. So what is Power Automate? Power Automate basically helps non-developers work smarter by automating workflows across applications and services. Like, the whole low code, no code tools from Microsoft, they are four in number. There's Power Apps, there's Power Automate, there's Power Virtual Agent, and there's Power BI. So in this track, we're going to focus on Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. We have another track for Power Apps, another track for Power BI. Now, what Microsoft has done is they discovered that there is a need for a lot of automation in organizations, and the developers, the pro devs alone, can't meet up with this need. So they've created these low code, no code tools to help regular business users. Like Fumia said, she's in sales, she's not a tech person, and she's in the right place, because the idea of these tools is to help every business user to be able to automate whatever manual processes that they have to deal with on their decks or in their teams. So simple things like getting notifications, like copying files, collecting data, and approvals are some of the common scenarios where you will see Power Automate in use. So the whole idea is to work less and do more, right? I'm sure there's nobody on this call that wants to work more and do less. We all want to work less and do more. We want our time to be as productive as possible. We don't want to sit copying and pasting and merging, thousands of Excel sheets, when we can spend that time on the internet trying to do some research on what next for our role, how we want to solve the problems on our team, what other businesses are doing to solve these problems, learning from other thought leaders, in other organizations that are similar to us worldwide, not even necessarily in the country where you're located in. But how can you do all of those amazing things and go into meetings sounding all professional and very knowledgeable if you spend all of the time pulling all this manual and repetitive stuff? So that's what Power Automate is about. It's about helping us to work smarter, both as individuals and as teams. So we talk about personal productivity, collaboration, citizen development, and Power Automate also speaks to a bridge. It's like a bridge between applications. So personal productivity, I've said a lot around that, how we can help you to automate manual things that you're doing. Collaboration, it helps you to work with your other team members in a seamless way. Citizen development, the term citizen development is the term that has risen very quickly and is going to continue to rise for the next couple of years, which is just empowering everyone to be a developer. So from the word citizen is like, oh, I'm citizen of the country. That's like everybody. Then development, normal development. So we're saying citizen development is like empowering everybody to be a developer. And then Power Automate also acts as a bridge between applications. You want to pick a data from SQL database and you want to put it into maybe Dataverse, you want to collect the data from Power Apps and put it into SharePoint list. All of those interactions between applications is what Power Automate can help us achieve. And we have so many connectors. So we call them connectors. Connectors are those bridges. They are the ones that help us to speak from one application to another application, right? So we can call them a car for this purpose. So just imagine you want to go from a particular location to another location, and you have stuff you want to carry, or you yourself, you want to move from that location to that location. You need a car to move you from point A to point B. So in that same explanation, connectors are like that car that will get our data from point A to point B. So in that scenario, you are the data that wants to move from point A to B. So the connectors the connector is that car that will move you the data from point A to point B. So that's what the connectors are. They just basically help us to speak to all of these thousands of applications. So you can see here SharePoint, Dynamics, Dropbox. We also have Google Drive. We have Salesforce. We have GitHub. Thousands and thousands, well, lots and lots of applications. So 300 plus SaaS applications are available. And Power Automate is also able to speak to data on premises. So when we say on premises, we mean any information or any application that is not accessible through the internet. You know, some companies will say, oh, we have sensitive information. We cannot put it in the cloud. So those type of information will be on premises, as we call it. But Power Automate is also able to interact with those type of data. Please feel free to stop me at any point if I'm using any terminology that you don't understand. The whole idea of this class is to help beginners from knowledge of zero to grow. So there is no question, there's no silly question, there's no foolish question. We are all here to learn. So please feel free to say, excuse me, when you have a question, just unmute your mic and you just go straight ahead. So how do we access Power Automate? Power Automate can be accessed from the Office 365 panel. I don't know if we're all familiar with Office 365. Have you used it before? Is there anyone on the call that has not heard of Office 365 before? So I can just do a little explanation about what it is before we continue. Is there anyone that's heard of it before? And you'd like to tell us what you understand by the word Office 365? Okay, so Office 365 is Microsoft's cloud solution that enables organizations have access to lots of applications. So I would go back in time. So let's say about 13, 15 years ago when I got into the industry, and before that, what used to happen is when organizations like maybe a bank, you know, they all have their emails. So we say like, you can say phone at gtbank.com or sterlingbank.com, or enterprises like maybe Cadbury, you will say phone at cadbury.com. And I will use that. I'll say, this is my office email, and I can use that email for office communications. So previously, what used to happen is that those emails were running on systems that were on premise. So just imagine there is a space called a data center. A data center is just a massive, sorry, excuse me. So a data center is just a room full of computers, right? And that's like the central place. Let me just show you this picture. This is basically what a data center looks like here, right? So what happens here is you have all plenty computers here doing different things, right? So one of those computers can have an application. An application is like this Teams application you're using now on your laptop. So they can have an application like that running on the computer. So the way you have this Teams application running on your own computer at home, in the same way, in this big data center, they can have an application running on one of these systems here. All of these things are systems. That application is the application that will be used for email services. So right now what we have is we're using Teams for this meeting, this call, right? But you have an application like that for email services. And it will be in a data center like this, upstairs, maybe on the top floor of the building, or in another room somewhere around the premises of the organization. You have that place there. So what is happening is that all organizations used to have a data center, and in this data center they will have all of these computers, and let's just use the email as an example. They will have a server running that email. So the organization will be responsible for managing every updates that Microsoft releases. So you know Microsoft releases updates. Sometimes you will see your computer will say, oh, you need to update me, or I'm running an update. So the IT servers, we call them system admins, in that organization will be in charge of updating all the computers. They will be in charge of making sure that that email service application is also up to date. The OS, the application, they will be also in charge of ensuring that they are they have enough settings for spam. Everything is on the admin. Storage, making sure that everybody has enough storage to send and receive attachments. Sometimes you may send an email to someone, it will come back, it will bounce back and say, oh, the mail couldn't go because you attached a file of 500 MB. So all of those problems are the problems that the system admin used to face when I started my career so many years back. So what Microsoft has done is, okay, you know what? This headache is too much for you guys. So give it to us. We would deal with the headache, and all you will do now is just what we call SaaS, software as a service. So updating the Exchange server is not the operating system is not your problem anymore. Upgrading the Exchange application is not your problem anymore. All of those things, ensuring that there's power in your data center and ensuring that the AC is working, is cooling properly, all those things are not your problem anymore. Just give that problem to us. And for giving us that problem, you pay us a certain amount per user per month. So they have something like $5 per user per month. And the company say, oh, that's fantastic. So we don't have to face all this headache again. Okay, that's great. So all we're going to do now is we'll give you the money and provide us all of these services. So when you hear SaaS, software as a service, that's what it means. And it's what we have been using ever since, like with your Gmail account and your Hotmail account. Do you know where the application server is? Or do you know where the computer is? You don't know, and you are not bothered. It doesn't concern you. Your own is whenever I'm ready to log into my Gmail account, when I just do gmail.com, my username and my password, I want to see my emails. So we have been operating like that on a personal level. But what Microsoft has done is they've also brought this into the corporate world to say, okay, we can also provide these services for you as a corporate organization. And that is the very brief and high level summary of what Office 365 is. So these are some of the tools, the applications that are available on Office 365. The number of applications you have access to is based on the plan that you have at the moment. So they have different plans, just like subscription plan for DSTV, where they say, oh, if you pay this amount, you can only access X number of channels. So in the same way, Microsoft also has their own subscription plan. So one of the applications available on Office 365 is Power Automate, which is our focus for this class. So I hope I was able to explain Office 365, at least bring some understanding of what Office 365 is to you. All right. Any questions? Okay. Sorry, I have so many tabs open. I'm looking for the right word so that I can see the tips call. All right, so let's continue. Found it. Now, talking about building flows, we said Power Automate is an application that helps us to automate our processes. Now, that process of that automation is called a flow. That's what we call it. A flow is that thing that moves something from point A to point B. So what are the components of Power Automate? You have a trigger. So I will use a leave request to explain this. Just a leave request. What is a leave request? A leave request is a request that someone in an organization feels when he or she wants to go on leave. So some organizations used to do this with paper. What that means is if I want to go on leave, I go and print out a form. I fill the day I'm going, who my relief officer is, my start and my end dates. And then there's a space for my manager to sign, and maybe my manager's manager. And then I'll take that paper to HR. They will take the paper and put it in my file. So now that's an example I'm going to use to explain this. So if we are to automate that process, the process needs to start from somewhere. So that's why I say Power Automate starts with an event or a trigger. So in the example of the leave, the hard copy leave, what is the trigger of that example? this manual process I just described. What is that trigger? What is the thing that starts off your leave? So you want to go on leave. What is the trigger for that process? Does anybody want to try? The trigger for your process. So the trigger is just you getting the form. You're just getting the physical form from wherever it is, and you're either you're printing it out or you're getting it and you're filling it out. And when you finish filling it, you take it to somebody to approve. So that process of filling and taking it is what is triggering the leave. Then we also have what we call actions. So actions is when we say, I've given my leave form to my manager. My manager can say approved, or my manager can say, no, phone, you can't go on. You take the paper, put it in your drawer, and fill another form when the time is right. So that's just basically what a trigger is, what actions are, what a conditional logic is. And we also have the ability to trigger other workflows. But don't worry, we're going to look at everything. I'm going to do a demo. So it will help us to see what I'm trying to explain. So we have templates in Power Automate. And what is a template? Just from the basic meaning of templates, something that's like already done to an extent. So you are riding off that work that's already been done. So we have different templates that we can use to get started in Power Automate. So I usually advise users and say, any automation you want to create, look at the templates first and be sure that a template doesn't already exist for this automation before you start creating a new one. So that's what templates are. Now, what makes up a flow? A trigger. So you can see from this flow here, a trigger is when a record is created. That's our trigger. Then what are the actions? So when a new record is created, what should happen? Send an email. So that's the action. And then we also have other triggers available, like you can manually run a flow based on the user's action. So when the user does a particular thing, or when the user when the user fills a form or uses this flow button, then starts X and Y. You can also schedule a flow. So if you have a process that must run every week or every day at a particular time, you can say, oh, once it's 4 a.m. on Saturdays, I want you to do X and Y. Then you can also run some events that happen. All of this can be done either in the cloud or on premise. Then what are some examples of the actions we have? Actions are send an email. Actions are start an approval request. Actions are send a notification. Actions are create a new record, copy a file, move a document. All of those things are actions that can be used in Power Automate. All right. Do we have any questions? Okay, so let me continue. Then we have conditions. The example of the leave request I gave. I said your manager can decide to say, go on leave. The manager can also say, no, stay back. I don't want you to go. So that's what we talk about condition. Did your manager approve it? Yes. Okay, send an email to Fumi to say, oh, your leave request has been approved. Did your manager reject it? Yes, send an email to Fumi to say your leave request has been rejected. Then we have something we call switch. We usually use switch for scenarios where we have more than 2 actions coming out of a request, or you have something else that may happen. Like here, you have approved rejected, or if there is a situation where nothing is matching, then do this. So those are the cases where we use the switch statement. Then we have what we call the apply to each. Apply to each can say, okay, I want to move all of these documents that are in my Excel. I want to move it to my SQL database. Then you now say, for every row present in my Excel table, make sure you copy that row and paste it in my SQL database. So apply to each means that it will run for every single item that is in whatever value that we place here. We have do until. Do until is just what it means. Continue to do this until something happens. So you can say continue to carry out this process until the response is equal to approve. So in this example here, you can say it says start an approval, then do until response is equal to approve, then send me a mobile notification. So that process will not come out of this loop until the response is equals to approved. So, but as we start to use Power Automate, we'll get more familiar with all of these terms. A scope is basically grouping all of your actions and your conditions, your controls. It groups it together so that it makes your flow more manageable. Because you can see now this flow, if we're to expand this scope, it will become very big. So the scope helps you to group your actions. And a parallel branch is a branch that will run at the same time. So when you have a parallel branch, the two branches would run at the same time. So that's what the parallel branch means. So this is what the parallel branch means. When this flow is triggered, start an approval for sales and also start one for legal. So that's why it's a parallel branch. So immediately the flow starts, it's going to come here and also come to this legal, and then it will merge back at this point. So that's what we call a parallel branch. Then for the delay means you don't do this until this, for this example now, 10 minutes. So sometimes you may be working on a process or a flow, and you need certain things to happen and give it some time before you want your flow to continue. Otherwise, it may fail. So you can put a delay there and say, okay, delay this for 10 minutes. So a simple example, one of the examples I have encountered before is if there is I'm creating maybe a team in Microsoft Teams, and automatically created my Microsoft group. Now, the group needs to be fully created before I can put the team on it. But if it runs immediately, then my flow fails. So I'll say just wait a bit for about 10 minutes, and then you can now continue the process. So we have some situations where we need to delay. So that's when you use this delay action. All right. Any questions before I jump into my demo for today? All right. No questions. Back one step. So what I'm going to stop sharing my slide, and I'm going to share my tab. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to create a simple flow. And the purpose of that flow is this is the finished flow. So let me show you the finished flow, then we'll do our own together from the beginning. So what this flow is going to do is it's going to help us to track time. Now, Microsoft Power Automate has a mobile app on the phone that you can use. So this manually trigger a flow. It will show up on your phone, and once you tap on it, it will start the process. So what we are going to do is we want to record the time. We want to track the time. Let's say that, we are taking attendance for example, attendance of a training. I want to know when people arrive there. So we can create this simple flow that would track the time everybody arrives. So we'll just tell everyone and say, okay, when you get to the training center, just click on the Flow app that is called Track Time. And that is your way of signing in. You don't need to start holding paper and biro. Just get to the location of the training and tap it. Somebody will say, oh, what if they are tapping it in their house? Don't worry, we have a way around that using Power Automates. So these are interesting examples I'm sure we're going to enjoy. Now, in order to create this track a time flow, we need to have a timesheet. A timesheet in our OneDrive. So I spoke about Office 365. One of the tools that Office 365 has is Excel Online. You know, it has Excel Online. This is it. So Power Automate is able to connect to Excel Online through one of the connectors called Excel Online, Excel for Business Online. So the purpose of this flow is to record the time that people arrived at a particular location, like our training venue for our example. So we say when, we say where, who, when, and any comments about it. Now, when we run our flow, what it does, as you can see from some of the examples I've run here, what it does is immediately the user taps on that flow on the mobile app, it's just log it. This is where this person is. This is the person that tapped it. This was the date and the time it was tapped, and the comments entered by the individual. So you know that I would say the purpose of Power Automate is to help us to work less and do more. Now imagine if you don't have this kind of automation, what will happen? Maybe there will be somebody would print out a paper and put it in front of the training class. As people are coming, person will say, oh, please sign in. Then everybody will be writing their names, the time that they came, putting their comments on the paper. After that has been done, this same training coordinator will check the paper. After work, go to Excel and start typing it inside Excel so that it can get the information in soft copy, right? So instead of doing all of that, why don't you just create this simple process where the people that are coming for the training will just tap on their phone, and once they tap, they've signed in, and that's all. So that's the flow that we're going to create together. Now I'll show us how we did it, and it's very simple. So we're starting with a very simple flow so that it will help us to understand. So what's the first thing we're going to do? First thing we're going to create an Excel sheet in our OneDrive. That's the Excel sheet that all this data will be going into. So how do you do that? You come to Office 365, click on Excel, and I say I want to create a new workbook, so a blank workbook. And from there, I would say, what are the things I want to track? I want to track where, I want to track when, I want to track who, and I want comments. That's the three. Let me confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So those are the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, these are just, this is Excel. These are my headers. So the next thing I need to do is I need to convert this into a table. I highlight all of the sections. I come to insert table, and I click on my header as my table as headers. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point? Fumi, are you good? Yes. I'm not sure. So, please, how do you pronounce your name? I don't want to pronounce it wrongly.
Okay, Omo Velele.
Omo, okay, Omo.
Omo Velele is my name. Yeah. You can just say Omo for short.
Okay. Are you good?
Please,
You have
after selecting, yes, after selecting the different tracks, the where, the when, who, and comment, then what should we do next?
Okay, so I selected it. Then I came to
Okay.
insert. This is my mouse here. Usually is on home by default.
Okay.
I came to insert,
Okay.
then table.
Okay.
So what that does is it just converts this to a table.
Okay.
It's not allowing me because I've already done that before.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay. So we have
Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. We have the space where all of this is going to sit now. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to rename this workbook. So I'm going to double click here. Don't worry, the recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel, so you can always rewatch the steps in case you want to. So I'm going to call this timesheets 2 and save it. So that's saved. Now this is done. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Power Automate to create my flow. So let me come back here. This is Power Automate. How did I get here? From the Office 365 launcher. That's this icon here. You click on Power Automate and you get to Power Automate. So I want to create a new flow and I want to create an instant cloud flow because I want it to run manually. So I'll call this track time 2 and I'll say manually trigger a flow, create. Right. So next thing I want to do is I want to connect to my, so these are the connectors I mentioned when I was explaining connectors. These are all of the many connectors we have here. But I want to use the Excel Online business. Now we have the Excel Online. That's the one that comes with, if you have a Hotmail account or a Live account, a Microsoft personal account, Hotmail, Live, MSN, you can also use your Excel. But the Excel for business is the one that connects to, so this is it. Excel Online OneDrive is the one that is tied to your personal account, but Excel Online Business is the one that is used by Office 365. So this is what we want. And what do we want to do? We want to add row into a table. Okay, now we're going to say, so it's asking us, you want to add a row to a table. Where is this Excel sheet that I'm going to add the row to? So I say, okay, it's in my OneDrive for business. Okay, where exactly is it in OneDrive? Where is the file itself? And I click on this folder and I say my file is timesheet 2. And it says, okay, in timesheet 2, what table is it? Table 1. Table 1 is the default name that Excel, that's if you don't have a table on that sheet before, so just call it table 1. So table 1 is table. So from here, make I pick table 1, what do we see? We can see the columns where, when, who, and comments. It comes up automatically. All right, so now where there is a full address dynamic content. Okay, let me explain. These are what we call dynamic content, and it's from the word dynamic. It means that whatever it is at that time is what it takes. So you can see from here, if you look at my old submission where I use the dynamic content of when, it was picking the time that I was submitting the data into the system. So it's dynamic, it's not static. It's not saying every time it's a particular value. It's changing based on what time it is that I'm marking my attendance. So I'm going to say pick the full address of wherever this person is when the person is clicking this button. I want the person's address. And you don't have to do anything. Everything automatically comes with this manually trigger a flow. I want the timestamp. I want to know who it is, the person's username, and we'll stop here for now. So let me save this. And let me test my flow. So manually test it. It's asking me that I need to give it permission to connect to my Excel. That's fine. Then I'll say run the flow. So from here, we can see your flow successfully run. So it has run successfully. And if I come back into my timesheet 2 and I refresh, you will see that it has where I am at the moment. It has the time in a very funny way, which we are going to change now. It also has who. So my name on this account is Textilers. If I come here, you see, this is my name. So that's the name that is speaking here. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to change this time. We don't like the way this time. Why is the time appearing like in this funny way, right? And then Power Automate always logs this time on UTC. UTC is GMT. So like Nigeria, we're on GMT +1. So it's also giving me the wrong time, right? Because it's saying 13. Sorry, this is saying 15. And 15 is 3 o'clock. Whereas it's supposed to be 16:52, not 15. So what we're going to do, we're going to come back to our flow. I'm going to edit it. And I will add an action here and say current time, convert time, sorry. Convert date and time. Convert time zone. So what's my base time? My base time is my current time now, which is my timestamp. What is my source time? I'm on UTC. I'll pick UTC. So you can actually convert from any time to any time, but the default is UTC, so that's why I'm using UTC. And then I want to change it to UTC +1, which is the current time that we are on at the moment. So I'll take West Central Africa. Then the string, if you click on the arrow, you see different options available for your date and time. So I think I want to take this short form. This one is okay for me. And you see, it gives an example of what it will look like. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to come to this, add a row to a table. We just use the timestamp directly here before. Now what we're going to do is we're now going to take out this timestamp and change it to this one, because this is the dynamic content that is now holding the converted time, which is what we want. So the output is going to be the converted time in this format. So I pick it from here. Are we together? Any questions?
Yes.
All right, please. I'm with you, Fumi.
No, I said fine. It's going on well.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so now we've changed our time to this converted time. Then let me save and test. We're almost done. After this, we just add our comments. Run through. Done. All right, so let me come back to timesheet 2. So you can see now that the date is different from what we had before. See, it's now the right time, 5 minutes to 5, and it's showing in the format that we asked it to show in. So this shows that, okay, what we did is working, right? Working properly. So, but we don't have comments. What do we do? So I'm going to come back here and edit, and I'm going to say in my manually trigger a flow, I'm going to add an input, a text input, and call this comments. What will happen here is when the user manually triggers this flow, just like what you see now. So on my phone, if I go to this track time, I want to mark my attendance, I click on the flow. It's going to show me this. It's going to show me this dialog box, which we're not seeing before, because I've now included comments in my my inputs, one of the inputs I want to pass. But the other thing I now need to do is I need to come back to my table and say, whatever comments this person inputs, put it here. Yeah, so save. I'll come here, manually trigger test, and I say testing comments box, right? And I run the flow, run successfully. If I come back here to timesheets 2, we can now see my comments here. Yeah, so this brings us to the end of our demo for today. What we have done is we have seen how to create a simple flow using the manual trigger, and the time track flows is able to automatically save where the user is at the time the user is triggering the flow, is able to show us when the user did it, is also able to show us who the person is and comments. And in the same way, if you want to have any other thing like feedback on training, you can just rename this one feedback on training, come back here. Instead of saying comment, just a feedback on training, and the person can do that. So we're able to make it more extensive based on the scenario that we are working on. Do we have any questions?
Okay, thanks, Foyi. I have a question. Okay, so you said manual trigger. So do we have an automatic trigger?
Yes, we do. So we have other trigger options here. Let me come out of this.
So what are the differences between both?
Okay, that's a great question. So let me show you. So this is the beginning of your flow, an empty flow. Now, the manual trigger means that somebody has to push a button. So you can see when I was testing, they had to come here and say test and click on the test. So the same thing will happen if the person is on the mobile phone. He needs to push the button to start the flow. But automatic triggers are triggers that happen based on different things. Now, an example can be let me use the leave request that we did. So let's assume that a user has filled a leave request form, either using Microsoft Forms or using Power Apps, and the user submits that form. That data is passed into this Excel sheet. You can say immediately the data is passed into this Excel sheet, then trigger an approval flow. So let me show you. You can say when a new item is created, or maybe in a SharePoint list. Let me show you. SharePoint. You can say when a new item is created. This is an automatic trigger. So I can just pick. Do I have any sites? Okay. Let me take this one. No, this thing. Okay, let me just use this one. So I can say whenever the leave request, as you know, I will have connected the Power Apps to my leave request SharePoint list or to my leave request Excel sheets. So I can say whenever a new item is created, then start an approval flow. So I can come and say approval. We'll be talking about approvals next week. And Peace is going to take us to approval. So I can now say start and wait for an approval and say approve or reject. So this is an automated flow because nobody needs to press any button. Whenever somebody has submitted a leave approval request, it automatically starts running. But in the case of the manual, somebody has to manually click, the button for it to run. I hope I answered your question.
All right, thank you.
Yes, and the third one we have is a scheduled flow. That's the one that you can say when it is 10 a.m. in the morning. If I come here, I can say scheduled cloud flow. Scheduled cloud flow skip. And I can come here and say let me. So I can come here and say, when do you want to start? I want to start today at what time? 10 a.m. Then I want it to run when? Every week. Once every week. On which days? Every Monday. No. So this flow will run on Monday every week at 10 a.m. So it's another trigger, the schedule trigger. So 10 a.m. maybe you want to just do something simple like reminding your team members to submit their time sheets or their reports, weekly reports. Maybe in your team, people are doing weekly report, and every time you're always asking them, you haven't submitted your report, give me your reports. Why you not submitted? So you just say every Friday morning, run, reports reminder. Just do something like that. Create it. And you say, well, what do you want to happen every Friday morning at 10 a.m.? Send email. And just say, send an email to all of my team members. So if you have a distribution list or a group, or you want to put their name one by one, you just put it like this. Send a mail to these people and just tell them reports. Submit your reports now. Submit reports now. Something like that. And this ends all of your reminders. And just save it. And once it's 10, everybody gets the email saying you need to submit your report now. And if it's a location on SharePoint, you just put the link to the place here. Please click here to submit your report. And once they click on it, just take them to the document library and we'll go and upload their reports there. So this is an example of a recurring flow that we have. All right, do you have any other questions? No. So next week, we'll be looking at approval flows in details, which is one of the very common scenarios that we have in Power Automate. And the piece will be taking us in the next class, and she'll be explaining how to create an approval flow. So our homework is, I don't know, do we have access to an Office 365 tenant where we can try to build out this flow that we just did together in class?